Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of The Fad Show. So on this week's episode, I'm going to do a 6-month update of what we think of our 6-speed Porsche Cayenne 958. We've actually had the car for a little bit over 6 months now, but I will say that our experience has been pretty awesome with it. I think we're both pretty smitten by the car, and we actually just completed a 1,000-mile road trip to Big Bend National Park, spent 3 days there. With some very diverse driving conditions, and that's why I thought that we'd go ahead and do the update now, just while that trip was fresh on the mind, and we could reflect well on our thoughts and opinions of the car. And I think as much as I really did like this car before the trip, I think I fell in love with it even more on the trip. This car just has so much character, and it's just such a good all-arounder. Everything it does well, and its area of expertise is quite wide. So I think we're very happy with the car. I have to run some errands today, so I'll just set up the camera in the car and talk about some different areas and our impressions with the car. All right, let's get on the road. All right, so we're off, and I think the first area I'll start on is just daily use, which is pretty easy to talk about, seeing that this is a 5-passenger SUV, and although I'm not well versed on them, to me they're pretty much all the same. I mean, it's pretty much the same size as your Touareg. Also, obviously, it's the same vehicle, and the X5. Mazda CX-5, all those SUVs are more or less the same size and same level of practicality, in my opinion. Super comfortable for driving around town. Like I said, we just went on this 1,000-mile road trip to Big Bend National Park, and we had 4 people in the car, 2 coolers, and all of our luggage and snacks for the weekend. It was quite packed in the back, but we managed to fit everything, so I'll say that's definitely a plus. The materials in here are really nice. The leather's soft, the seats are comfortable, they offer plenty of adjustment. Ours have like the crazy 18-way seats, so that's nice. The stereo is pretty nice. I'm not a huge fan of Bose stereos in cars. I think that the Harman Kardon in the BMWs and the Fender in my Volkswagen is better than any Bose, but it's still pretty good. So yeah, riding around town, it's super comfortable. I love that you can change the suspension settings, because I like it on sport on the highway, so the car's like planted or whatever, but then just riding around town, I like it in comfort just to try and absorb some of the bumps more or less. I would say probably maybe the only drawback to daily use for this car for some people is the fact that it's a manual, but I'm guessing if you clicked on this video, then that's not of no concern to you, and that's how I feel about that. So overall, the car's great for daily use, good fuel range, can go almost 500 miles on a tank, get about 21 miles per gallon depending on how you drive it on premium, so maybe that's more expensive than some, but again, if you're looking at this car, that's probably not something you're too concerned about, but I am pretty impressed with the range just based on how big this tank is. Being able to get 500 miles is quite nice on road trips, and this past week when we were in Big Bend, where that is so far in the middle of nowhere, it's kind of nice having that little bit of insurance as far as fuel range goes. But I think that's it. That's pretty much all to speak of on daily use. I mean, it's really comfortable and it works well for driving around town. So moving on to adventuring and road trips, I think if you are at all interested in this car, that's something that you might use the vehicle for. But yeah, like I said, we just recently took the car to Big Bend National Park in West Texas, and some of the roads in West Texas are just, especially on the way down to the national park, are just completely wide open. They're actually pretty decent pavement. You can see for miles and miles and miles. There's 0 cars on the road, and they can be quite invocating of some speed. Sorry, there's like a ton of cars coming right now. But yeah, they can induce some sensation or desire to push the speed a little bit just based on how the roads are set up out there. But I know there's times where I was driving along, just talking to the other people in the car, didn't have cruise control on, wasn't really paying attention, and looking down, and I was doing somewhere between 90 and 100 miles an hour. We might have crossed over into Mexico for this part of the journey, but yeah, the car is extremely planted and capable of cruising at 100 miles an hour with absolutely zero effort. And I do find that I like to have my suspension in the sport setting when I'm on the highway, because it makes the car feel a little bit more planted. If you're in comfort and you hit a bump, it kind of wallows a little bit. But actually, Big Bend ended up being like a pretty good testing grounds, because it offered some dirt, icy switchback road. It was kind of like a muddy ice pass over this mountain range, and the car was awesome on there. I don't think it slipped one tire the entire time around the road, and that time I pretty much just left it in gear second gear the entire time, so it wasn't really too fun rolling through the gears. But there were some other switchback paved roads where you got a chance to get through the gears, put the chassis in sport, and really feel the handling dynamics of the car, which I said in previous videos, this is actually really good. There's like pretty much zero body roll for this car, and it is actually possible to heel toe this car, although it's not as easy as some, but it is still fun to row through the gears. The gears are pretty wide, so you don't find yourself really changing gear that much. Also, this car has a ton of torque too, so you don't really need to change gear that much. But anyways, it was definitely fun to do that. And then it has enough ground clearance when we went on some forest roads to some trailheads. There were, probably the tallest rock we encountered was maybe 4 or 6 inches tall, but you at least have the confidence to be able to do stuff like that. I don't think I would take this car rock climbing, but as we saw when we were in Sedona, Arizona, we did actually see a Cayenne like E-hybrid with these really paper thin low profile tires that went up a pretty good off-road trail, which I was impressed. I would never do that because I don't have the money to waste on repairs for stupid stuff like that. But anyways, the car is definitely capable on the kind of lighter off-road trails, the most I would ever take it on. And yeah, I think I mentioned before in the daily part of this conversation that I also was impressed with the fuel range of the car. I'm not sure exactly what the tank size is, but it is kind of nice to have that 500 miles range, because from where we were staying in Alpine, Texas, going to Big Bend, it's like 70 miles just to get to the entrance of the park, and then Big Bend is so wide open, you're like driving 30 miles between trailheads inside the park. So the miles can rack up pretty good in one day, where you're very, very far from the closest gas station. Actually, you can hit scan on the radio and not a single radio station comes in out there, so it is very well in the middle of nowhere. So it's kind of nice having that little bit of endurance-ish fuel economy, if you will, for situations like that. So I think that pretty much covers the adventuring. Honestly, it might even be, I don't know, it's kind of like a tough race between this and the All-Track of like what the perfect all-around car is. I think I might have to give the edge to the All-Track just because it takes regular fuel, so it's a little bit more cost-effective, but at the same time it has a much smaller fuel tank, and you can only go probably like 300 miles on a tank, where this can do 500, so it's really nice having that extra range in this. But yeah, I think that covers the kind of adventuring road trip capabilities of the car, and then I think I pretty much covered all the driving dynamics within that conversation. So next I'd like to go ahead and talk about reliability with the car thus far for us. Actually, the car's been, knock on wood, pretty dead nuts reliable. When we did buy the car, we did have the issue with the transfer case causing the drivetrain vibration, which was kind of easily addressed by just flushing the fluid a bunch of times. We were still had a good enough price that if we had to replace the transfer case, we'd still be whatever in good shape on the car. But overall, our car was dealer maintained from new, so it was pretty well set up as far as maintenance goes. We did do some maintenance items that aren't part of the normal Porsche maintenance schedule, as far as doing the transfer case oils, the gearbox oil, and the differential oils. And yeah, it did make a huge improvement. I think I said before where I wasn't really impressed with the shifter feel of this car, but flushing the manual transmission fluid definitely improved the shifter feel a lot. It's still not like sport car like, but it's definitely vastly improved from what it was before. Parts are generally pretty cheap for the car. It is a Porsche, so some of the Porsche specific stuff obviously is going to be a little bit more pricey, but there's a lot of stuff on this that shares parts with VW and Audi, so I think it will be, especially for the VR6 version, so I think it will be pretty cheap to maintain going forward. It's actually kind of I don't know if it's good thing or bad thing or whatever, but as you start working on the car and you see how many VW and Audi logos there are all over this car, there's definitely probably more of them than the Porsche logo. But with that, it does drive down the cost of maintenance a little bit, and hopefully it'll be reliable for the future. I don't think there's any really catastrophic issues known with these cars, and it's actually kind of nice where these are depreciated enough that they're in whatever kind of DIY hands now. So there's a lot of DIY videos out there, especially for the automatic versions. Not that there's really too many manual specific stuff you need to know. So there's a good amount of DIY stuff out there, both on like Renlist and Pelican Parts and just on YouTube and stuff. So yeah, reliability, yeah, it's been great, and I don't think the cost of ownership is going to be too much. Really, the only thing that's probably going to add up on this car is just premium fuel. But yeah, that's kind of what you expect for anything in this realm. So yeah, that covers reliability. All right, so we finished our Walmart run, and I'll go ahead and I'll move on and talk about my gripes or complaints with this car, which are pretty short numbered, but there are a few of them, and they all stem, I think, from this car not originally being designed to be a manual, and just, I don't know if it was an afterthought or they just didn't prioritize the manual design aspect of it, because they knew that they were going to sell 99.8% of them as automatics. But yeah, pretty much all the issues or complaints I have with the car come from the fact that it's a manual. The first one, I guess, being an issue I have with pretty much all cars that are manual and have electronic parking brakes, is I don't know if it's just me. I guess apparently it's just me, my girlfriend says, because I can never figure out how to use the electronic parking brake. It's just like backwards in my mind from the way you think it is, because in a car you pull up on the parking brake to put it on, but for the electronic button you have to push it down to turn it on, and then vice versa to release it. And sometimes it turns off automatically when you let out the clutch and hit the gas, and sometimes it doesn't. It just seems to have a mind of its own, and it just drives me crazy. I would just wish it had a normal parking brake, but I guess with this center console you couldn't really do that. So that's one complaint. The other one, I think I mentioned in the first video, is just the fact if you have a tall cup holder here, you can't really change gear comfortably. You kind of have to like come at it like this, which is not the most comfortable, but if you're just cruising on the highway and you're in 60 gear anyways, then it doesn't really matter. And the last one is, this car is like, I guess it's like a luxury feature or a convenience feature where you open the door, it slides the seat back like a couple inches, so you can get out the door. And then when you get back in, you go to start the car, and the clutch like switch on the car is like super far down the pedal travel, so you have to push the clutch like all the way in. So for me, it's just like, I like my seat to be set up where my foot's fully extended for the clutch in. And so yeah, just moving back like 2 inches, then I have to like really either lean forward on the seat or really stretch my leg out farther than is comfortable to make up the clutch switch to be able to start the car. And then the only way I find to get the seat to go back in the manual car is to hit the like memory button again. So I don't know if it's automatic in an automatic or if that was some sort of missed design cue or something. But yeah, it's kind of annoying, and I wish it just didn't move the seat back, because I've never had any issue getting out of the car where the seat didn't move backwards. So again, that's probably just a minor complaint, but nevertheless, those are pretty much the only 3 issues I have with the car. Everything else has been pretty great, and overall, definitely really happy with the car. All right, so overall, I think we both have been extremely impressed with the car, and I think it's one that's going to remain with us for quite a while. We paid only $13,000 for the vehicle, and I don't know, maybe put like $500 into it so far. Probably not even that much, to be honest with you. And the going rate of these seems to be, I don't know, I've seen them trade sell and bring a trailer for like 22 to 24. Recently there was one advertised on Craigslist in Los Angeles for $26,000. So yeah, we definitely have some profit in the car, but we both love it so much. I think it's going to be one that remains with us for a long time, and we've been extremely thrilled with it so far. So I hope you guys liked this video, and if you really liked it, then go ahead and like and subscribe, and stay tuned on the channel for more content with the 958 6-speed Cayenne, and then some of the other vehicles that I need to be more proactive about making videos on. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Thank you. Bye.